Are you ready to step up your game? Do you want to form the habits required to take your hustle to the next level? You're in the right place. We've been where you are and know that getting to your optimized next level doesn't happen by accident.
Welcome to the Next Level Hustle podcast. Each week, we sit down with experts, entrepreneurs, and people at the top of their game to help you discover how to accelerate what you've already been doing with excellence and speed to find success and fulfillment in every area of your life. I'm your host, Boomer Allred.
And I'm also your host, John Wiesahan.
This is going to be Next Level. Welcome to the Next Level Hustle podcast. I'm Boomer, and I'm with my co-host, John.
What's up, Boomer? Thank you for that amazing introduction.
Deep, right?
It was great. So I'm John, co-host here with Boomer on the Next Level Hustle podcast. I am a serial entrepreneur, love starting new things, love executing quickly, and love working with people who make the dreams and the magic happen, which is why Boomer's here with me. Boomer, you have an incredible resume behind you. Just tell the audience a little bit about what you've done in your life.
So my name is Boomer. I have been a filmmaker for 30 years. Along the way, I've visited 50 states, 28 countries, won 4 Emmy Awards, been able to work with amazing athletes, amazing production teams, and now I'm an executive coach. And so I get to help individuals, companies find their potential and their next level hustle. And as an entrepreneur myself, running my own company, I find how many different roles I get to play and the different hustle that has to do with, booking your own jobs, your own travel, your own billing, and it keeps going on and on. So that's where it shows up in my life. But I'm curious, what does hustle mean to you, John?
Yeah, this word hustle, it's funny because people hear it from time to time and everybody's got their own definition, and hustle to me is one of those things where if you have an idea that's baked 50% of the way, what are you going to do to execute to get the rest of the 50% to happen, right? So, a lot of people come up to me and say, man, that's a crazy idea. Well, is it? We don't really know until we try. At least in your brain, if it's 50% of the way there, you can put hustle behind an idea to execute it. And that's exciting for me, right? That's fun. And we have an amazing group of people around the companies that we operate today that make that happen. But it hasn't always been that way, right? Hustle to you, from what you just said, is just bootstrap it, right? You're the only guy. Well, when I started my first company, I was the only guy. I was doing the invoices, I was doing the sales calls, I was executing all on my own, right? And when you start to learn the habits that form the lanes and the ruts in your brain to do this over and over and over again, and you do it for 10,000 hours and you become an expert, you start to take the hustle to the next level, right? That's what hustle means to me. But this podcast is really about what can you do to take it from a single guy and scale it to a big ass company. And I think that's what creating those ruts over the last 15 years of my career has done, is creating those habits to bring people in around you to take the hustle that not everybody inherently has, right? But if you do, how do you take it and how do you really maximize it to its full potential?
Well, that's interesting because I've probably fallen into the second part where necessarily I don't feel like I have that next level hustle. I have it when I'm around you, but it's definitely something that is, I can fall into that paralysis by analysis, waiting too long to act on something, having great ideas, but they sit so long that they become stale. So
it's funny you say that. So there's a guy who used to work with me before, and he's probably going to be a guest on this podcast at some point. He's an amazing human. And he told me once, he had his own company and he helped me for a little bit when we first started. When he, decided to help us less because he wanted to pursue his own dreams, which we fully support here, and he still helps us from time to time. On his way out, he told me one thing. He was like, if you hadn't taught me anything else, it was to do what you do with excellence and speed. He goes, I always do it with excellence. I've never done it with speed. And speed is how you can outbeat your competition 9 times out of 10. You just have to go. And there's so many people that sit around and say, and try to put an idea in a box with a pretty little red bow on top and say, okay, now this idea I can go execute. Well, guess what? The second you take that first damn step is the second that box becomes unwrapped. You're never going to know. Have the box taped up, leave the wrapping paper to the side, and wrap it along the way. And then at the end, it'll be a pretty little bow on top. You just have to go. That's why I say, if you have an idea that's thought out at least 50% of the way, that's enough in my head to go. And you have to have blinders on to risk. Because most people, oh, it's too risky. Oh, I can't do that. Oh, I can't take that money out. Oh, I can't spend the time on that. Why not? Why can't you? You're scared. You're in your own head and you haven't even freaking started yet, right? So it's things like that. But anyway, this is cool. Like, this is what we're gonna do. This is what we're gonna talk about. We're gonna talk about these types of things with our guests. Boomer, if you don't mind, I know you have an incredible Rolodex with all of your Emmy Awards and ESPN shoots and all the amazing things that you've done. So give our listeners just a little tidbit about what they can expect in future episodes.
Yeah, we're really excited when we put a roster together, like who could be a guest for the Next Level Hustle podcast. It's former NFL players, former CrossFit Games athletes, entrepreneurs, thought leaders, PGA Tour players. These are people that we want to reach out to. We want to have on this podcast and talk about what did they do to get to that next level when no one was watching. That's part of it, right? That's what the Next Level Hustle is about. It's like you're not doing it out in front for social media likes. Like, you have to be doing the work when no one's watching. And the people that we'll have on this podcast, that's what I want to tap into. Like, how do you show up and do the work of the things you need to do, even the small things that you know that will make you better and bring you to the next level? So excited to see where this unfolds to, where this podcast grows. I really feel that you would be the perfect guest and you're the host. So
that's why it's going to be so fun.
Exactly.
Right? We're going to challenge each other on so many neat things.
Yes, absolutely. So watching this whole thing unfold and love hearing things back from the audience and questions that they have and stories and really building a community and finding out, what their next level hustle is.
Yeah. And look, like, ultimately we really want to be able to provide meaningful feedback and meaningful, different thought processes for our listeners to listen to, right? So because of that, we're going to have pro athletes. Not everybody's a pro athlete, but you can take things that pro athletes say and the mindset that they have around competing, around competition, around game day, and put those into your life, right? My daughter is actually coached by a former Super Bowl playing NFL player in basketball. She's in fourth grade. Great story. I walk in. It's her first time playing basketball in the fourth grade, 10-year-old girls. And there's this former NFL player coaching these girls. He's a gentle giant, great person. And you know what he said? The first thing he said to these girls was, girls, listen. And what was great is he said it like it rolled off the tongue, like it was nothing to him. But these are the ruts he's created in his mind over his career, right? He said, you guys are going to miss more shots than you are going to make, but you have to keep going if you want to win. What that tells me is, in business, you're going to fail. You're going to stumble, but you have to keep going because what's on the other side is greater than whatever failure that you're experiencing right now. Like, that to me, I'm like, damn, man, like, that was profound. But this guy's probably never run a business. Maybe he has, maybe he hasn't. I don't know well enough to know that. But he hasn't run a business for the last 15 years. He's been playing NFL football. He's probably not running a business, right? I'm running a business for the last 15 years. Like, that's something that I can apply that I haven't taught myself yet. And now I'm applying. I've been doing those things, but I haven't really articulated those to the rest of my team. And it was a really good lesson to be able to tell the folks around me. So it's just really neat. So those are the types of people. But look, some of our listeners are going to be career bankers. They're going to be career wherever they are, Fortune 500 companies. We're going to have Fortune 50 and Fortune 500 executives on here. We're going to have mid-cap business owners. We're going to have small business owners like ourselves, right? So we're going to have everybody that can really talk to who our listeners are.
With that said, I can't wait to listen.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
Honestly, like, as a podcast consumer, this is something that excites me. It's something that I know I would listen to if I was in the car going to work, and it would fire me up to take my business, my personal life to the next level with Next Level Hustle. Yeah.
Let's close and tell the audience a little bit more in depth about our backgrounds and how we maybe know each other.
Sounds good. Actually, John, you're one of my Next Level Hustle stories. So we met.
Oh, tell me more.
We really met CrossFit Charlotte, you were back on the Concept 2 bike, just warming up with your son. And I'm like, man, I want to get to know this guy. So I sat next to you and just started chatting. We had a great conversation. And before you left the gym, I gave you a book on leadership. And you were like, hey, let's get together and have a coffee. Great. So it was a ping pong, that volley back and forth when I text you, are you around? No. Are you around? No, I'm traveling. You're traveling. And finally, it dissolved into a ghosting relationship.
For like a year, if I remember right.
Well, it was like 4 or 5 months.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, that went away. That was special while we had it. And then then I noticed on our CrossFit Charlotte's webpage, it said, it's John's birthday on Monday. So I'm like, I'm going to make sure I text John and wish him happy birthday. And so I did. I said, happy birthday, John. He's like, hey, man, I'm having a great day. Thanks for thinking of me. And the next day you text me back and said, can you come into the office on Thursday? And I did. And sure enough, we had a great meeting and I began coaching you. And then slowly I began coaching more and more of your company. And from that, this podcast, we began talking about doing this podcast. And that kind of dissolved mostly I didn't follow up with it. And then suddenly in December, I brought it back up to you and you're like, yeah, let's do it. Next Level Hustle podcast. Here's 3 logos. We have social media backup. We got a microphone. We're good. Let's go. And so I'm like, that's what it's like to be around you in your like swell of conversation to concept. I mean, it's amazing.
Yes. I mean, it's absolutely incredible. And you know, I will say as a leader, to have the brain space to think about new things and execute on them appropriately is impossible. Absolutely impossible without amazing people around you. And if anybody thinks that they can create a $2 million business to $10 million business or greater by themselves, you might as well just start over and keep listening to this podcast because you can't do it. It's absolutely impossible. And, you know, I will tell you, I'm going to back up for a minute. I think it was about 9 years ago, actually 10 years ago, my cousin, who was 37 at the time, had 4 kids under the age of 6, died of breast cancer. And she probably could have done some things to take care of her health a little bit better, like drink less, smoke less, do things that weren't exactly healthy. And that wasn't why she had cancer, right? But that was motivation for me at the time when I had a normal 9-to-5 job, totally fine. I'm like, you know what? Life is damn short. And to be able to take that motivation and walk into a CrossFit gym, which is incredibly intimidating. For the first time, I couldn't do a push-up, not one, not a normal push-up, not even on my knees. And walk up to the coach and say, I want to change my life. And him saying, get your ass in class. It was that like, get your ass in class type of attitude I needed for somebody to kick me in gear, right? Did that, and I've been on a CrossFit journey. That's my own journey. I'm not some super strong, ripped guy that obsesses over the gym, but it keeps me healthy, keeps me on track. It keeps me drinking less. It keeps my mind focused. It keeps me in shape, right? It keeps everything in check for me. But that led to moving. I'm not going to bore you with the details here, but I ended up joining CrossFit Charlotte when we moved offices, and our office is across the street from CrossFit Charlotte. So I'm members of 2 CrossFit gyms, and both have amazing communities where I met you. But we're in this office today because I had an idea in 2018 to start a website for $12. And I thought I was absolutely crazy. I had no money. I was actually like severely in debt, honestly. And I'm like, you know what? Nobody's going to take care of me except for me. So I better figure out how to do it on my own. And I bootstrapped the hell out of it. I cut a deal with a marketing agency. I didn't pay him a dime. I told him I'd pay him 5% of, this is a great story. I bought the website for $12.99, told a marketing agency who had a technology background that I would pay them 5% of net cash receipts until this thing exploded. And I'd worked with them in the past in other businesses, so they kind of knew me. And they looked at me and they said, we think you're crazy, but we believe in you. They're like, we're not buying the idea, we're buying you. And they said they did all this front end work, all for no money. For my first check I ever wrote them was $5.34. But I wrote the check the first month. We had one sale, and that was 5% of the sale. 2 years later, I was writing them checks for $48,000 a month. Big number, right? The business grew that fast, but they believed in me, but I wouldn't be here today without them. And I remember that, and then we ended up selling that business for $4 million, back in 2021, mid 2021. It was a great exit for us. And now we're using the same office space we built that business in for the business we're in now, which is oil and lubricants. And it's fantastic, right? And just goes to show you what the people that you cross in your life, the impact they have in ways that you don't even know yet. You'll hear me say this a million times on this podcast, never burn a bridge. I don't care what somebody did to you. I don't care how rude they were to you. I don't care how much they screwed you. Never burn a bridge, because it's always going to come back around. Always going to come back around. And there's so many stories like that we're going to tell that are a lot of fun. But all that to say, this is how I know Boomer. And sometimes you got to bootstrap it, and sometimes you got to make deals, and you got to put yourself in positions that are risky to be able to see the reward on the other side.
It's a beautiful story, John. I can't wait for us to unpack many, many stories and share with listeners how they can step up their game. Thanks for listening to the Next Level Hustle podcast, where we help you accelerate what you already know to the next level.
If you'd like to support the podcast, consider sharing it on social media, subscribing wherever you listen, or leaving us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts. We'll see you next week for another Next Level Hustle conversation. I'm John, and I'm out.
And I'm Boomer. I'm also out.